let the healing begin.
Hey y'all, what's good? It's your girl Gracesandra, and I am back for another episode of Aging Gracefully, the podcast. So today we're going to talk about a number of things, so let's just get right into it. First of all, today is May the 1st. Happy May to y'all. And how are you doing? It's the 5th month into the year. We're almost halfway through. I chose a word for 2023. I choose a word every year. If you don't follow the hashtag one word 2022, one word 2023, you should follow it. So what it is it's one word that you choose to live by for the entirety of the year instead of making a bunch of resolutions that people don't tend to keep anyway. It's just one way to stay on track with what you want to stay on track every month, just asking, how am I doing at this one thing that I want to do? So one year my word was establish. One year my word was thrive. This year I decided to make it habits because I had the sense last year that the habits that I was creating were really helping me to push some really important things forward in my life. And so I was like, why don't I just focus on that? Let me turn the ringer off on my phone. Okay, there we go. Last year, I usually choose my one word like towards late and towards the end of the month. So I decided to just really pray, seek God, be like, what do I really need in 2023? That's kind of my practice every year. And so what I did was I came up with the word habits, and I decided that I was going to focus on habits instead of a big resolution like I'm gonna lose 20 pounds or I'm gonna do this or do that, which I never do weight resolutions anyway, but just an example because that's a common one that everyone does. But instead, for example, if I were going to do a weight loss resolution, instead I would say I'm going to create a habit of trying to eat 5 a day. Strive for 5. 5 fruits or vegetables every single day. Now that's not one of the ones that I decided to do, although that is a good one to live by, and I have done that before in my life. But what I decided was I was going to focus on specific habits and then add more as I go. One of the habits that I have really developed and I'm so thankful for, there's 2 in particular that I'm so thankful for. One is taking deep breaths. Breath counts. So in for 4, pause for 4, out for 4, pause for 4. Wait, I said that wrong. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and then pause for 4. That's one way of just letting your body know, hey, we're safe. You can calm down. You don't have to have anxiety. There are some studies that have shown that breath work, even 1 minute a day, is actually really, really good for your brain. Like it's like health food for your brain. There's tons of them. I could probably try to find a few, but just Google it. I'm sure you can find it. And why not, y'all? Why not? There's enough proof everywhere that breath work, meditation, all of those things are so good for us. So there's things that I have developed over time, honestly, because I came out of trauma. So, my story is that I was in a narcissistically, very verbally, very psychologically tormenting marriage previously. The way that I had to survive the severe panic attacks and the complex PTSD was to really invest in meditation. The meditation led to me learning how to do diaphragmatic breathing. The diaphragmatic breathing led to me doing breath work just in general. And I've just kept this practice because it's so good for me. So my other habit that I wanted to do every single day is meditate. I wish I could say that I have meditated every single day of 2023, but I haven't. But I have meditated a lot of the days. It's a habit now. I would say I meditate enough that it's a habit. I do my deep breathing enough that it's a habit. I do my deep breathing sometimes without even thinking about it. Like sometimes I'll just be watching TV and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I was just doing deep breathing for like 2 minutes and I didn't realize. I just started breathing in, holding it, releasing slowly. I think my body has learned that if it feels stressed, even if it's a TV show that's not even real or like a reality show, like Love is Blind. Love is Blind was giving me anxiety, and I found myself doing deep breathing without even noticing. So I'm curious if you guys chose a word for 2023. If you did, please leave it in the comments on my YouTube channel. This is a video podcast, by the way. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you can watch this as well on my YouTube channel, Out Here Trying to Survive. That's Tryna, Tryna. Speaking of deep breathing, I am coming back to life again after months and months and months of not being on an antidepressant. I am finally back on an antidepressant, y'all. I'm so happy to tell y'all that. I'm so happy to tell y'all that I have survived the ramp up period. It's been, I think, 3 weeks. It took a full 3 weeks to feel good. After I started taking it, it actually made me feel worse. And now I feel better. And I'm so thankful. I feel like literally like I am coming back to life. I feel like I'm back to my creative self again. Like I feel like I'm back to feeling like I'm capable, like I can handle things around here. I can handle my children. I can handle the messes in my life, whatever that might be, like actual literal physical messes that I'm looking at that I still have to clean up. My room is pretty messy because I'm in my bedroom right now. It just has been such a relief. And if you have dealt with or know what it's like to go through very severe depression and have very severe panic attacks, then you know what that relief feels like if you finally find a medication that really works for you. So I highly suggest, if you have never tried antidepressant, to try it, but just know that the ramp up period is going to be a little difficult, a little crazy, just FYI. So let's talk about dating shenanigans. I think I'm going to start one of the segments of each episode is going to be about dating, because honestly, I just love talking about it. It's fun to talk about. I didn't want to make a whole podcast about dating, but it's still like a part of my life. Even when I'm trying not to date, there's still shenanigans. I want to tell y'all one of the shenanigans. I just told this on my Instagram stories today, but I thought it was so funny. So I'm still on Facebook dating, like not active, but my profile's closed. If you've ever been on Facebook dating, you know that it still shows you the messages of people who you've previously matched with. The last time I was like active on it was in February, so I had matched with like 15 or 20 people, maybe January, February-ish, and some of them had still been messaging me. So this one guy was messaging me, and we like went back and forth a few times, but then it never went anywhere. So Facebook dating, even if you're not active, will still give you a notification in your general notifications, your daily notifications, like, hey, so-and-so just messaged you. So this dude messages me the other day. He wants to video chat. We did end up having a phone conversation, and in the phone conversation, he just casually drops in that he shot 3 people. And I'm like, a word? And he was like, yes. I'm like, so what happened? So he tells me this whole long story, y'all. I mean, there were police chases, jumped fences, guns thrown out the window, him getting wrestled to the ground by the police, him shooting 3 people. It was arguably, it could have been self-defense, but I was just like, this is crazy. And I like knew right away, like I am not interested in anything more, like not even another conversation. But I still was like engaged with the conversation or with what was happening. So I'm like, so why aren't you in prison? And he was like, oh yeah, I already served my time or whatever, but it was a short amount of time. Like I got out within a year or 2 because my sentence was cut short because it wasn't really my fault or whatever. So these 3 people, by the way, they didn't die, but they were all shot and they were all hospitalized. So I said, so you're a felon? And he was like, yeah. I said, you know, I don't really date hood niggas no more. Like I dated one and he ended up beating me up, and I'm good. I'm straight. I'm straight on hood niggas. And he was like, oh, I'm not really anymore. Like I'm not really anymore. He said something like, I hope this doesn't prevent you from wanting to get to know me anymore. So needless to say, we did not talk anymore after that. But I just thought it was so funny. Like literally re-engaging with dating led to a conversation with someone who was a literal felon, and I was like, this is just not my time. So speaking of dating, that leads us to our 3rd segment of the day: first, second, and third marriages. So where are y'all at with that? What is going on? Do you want to get married again? Do you never want to get married again? One of the conversations that spurred this on was a conversation with one of my good friends who is a fellow narc abuse survivor. And she was basically telling me like she has no interest whatsoever in getting married. To be honest with you, don't have a lot of interest in that 3rd marriage. I am not really feeling like 3rd time's a charm in terms of marriage. Obviously, have been married twice. My 2nd marriage was extremely abusive and extremely traumatic. And I'm still very much healing from what was one of the most traumatizing things I've ever been through. I had never experienced narcissistic abuse, and it is just one of the worst things a human can go through. I really firmly believe that. I was just thinking about this because I do want to have a long-term partnership one day. So I am someone who, one of my friends calls me a serial monogamist. She said I'm like the J-Lo of our friend group. And basically I definitely am more comfortable in like one-on-one situations. I could potentially pursue being poly, but it doesn't really interest me. I feel like under the right circumstances, I could maybe do something like that. Or like I have friends that they're not poly, they just want to bop around from, you know, person to person. They just don't have any interest in even a long-term partnership. And then some of my friends my age do want to get married again. They've only been married once and they want their second shot. I feel like I tried my second shot and I failed with the plunge of rolling off of Mount Everest. The fall was mighty. The fall was very mighty, y'all. I just am not interested really in doing that again. There are also studies that show, I don't remember if it's just America or if it's globally. The study shows that women, as we age, if we're married, we are more unhappy because we tend to be more in the caretaker role of a husband as we age. We are doing more of the emotional labor. We're doing more of the physical labor. We're still doing more of the labor with the children, even if they're grown children. If they have grandchildren, then the woman is still doing more. And so that compromises her health. It compromises her ability to continue to make more money. It compromises her ability to finally invest maybe in her hobbies or things that really bring her joy, as she maybe has, you know, more time freedom as an older woman or maybe a retired woman. However, as women age, the studies show that if we're single, we are actually happier. So much happier. We have more money to work with, more time to invest in our hobbies, more time to grow and see our kids and our grandkids, more time to invest in our own health, our own mental health, our own physical health. We become stronger, we become wealthier. But here's where it gets interesting, y'all. The studies show that men, if they are single, are very unhappy. Unlike women, die sooner, are more obese, have more heart attacks, have less money, have less access to their kids, less access to their grandkids, which, as we know, as you age, brings more peace. It's not more money that brings more peace as you age. It's those close family ties and connections. But on the other hand, men who are married as they age are the happiest. More money, more resources, someone taking care of them, someone monitoring their health. So if you look at that example, men and women, as we age and we get married, the woman is becoming increasingly unhappy while the man is becoming happier, and who's getting drained? You know, so it's just a very interesting study, and it was very, very widespread. I will put the link in the show notes, and on YouTube I will put the link in the description box, because I think it is something that women should think about. I'm not saying women shouldn't get married. I mean, obviously I've been married twice, but I think now that, so I'm 46, as I'm aging, you know, I'm closer to 50 now than I've ever been, obviously closer to 50 than 40. And I'm like, wow, like I'm getting up there, you know, and I had a late in life baby. So I have a baby who's 6.5. So I still have, you know, a good 10 years ish, 8 to 10 years, you know, before I'm, I guess, an empty nester. So I have a little while. Maybe more women my age, like, have less time before they're like completely out on their own. But it does make me think, as someone who really is a serial monogamist, who really desires that kind of closeness, like, is that really what I want? Because I do believe there's a lot of merit to those studies. And as I have just gone into like this dating world, I have seen that the enormous level of difficulty there is finding men who are as emotionally intelligent as me and my circle of friends. And I'm not saying like we're the best at anything. I'm just saying it has been difficult to find men who are on the same level emotionally, who have evolved emotionally, who have really truly chosen to be better men. Because a lot of times when men really choose that, when they really choose emotional maturity, when they really choose to be on another level, they're married already. Or they're not divorced because they're actually making their wife happy. There's not a lot of them that are left that are single or are single for very long. I just have thought many times like that, and just how I feel like I'm kind of different. I just feel different enough that I just wonder if that's really in the cards for me, if there's a man who would want to even go on this life path with me. So it's just something interesting. But I also think, and here's where it might get, you know, like slightly controversial. I mean, I don't know. My first marriage, I was married to a white person. There were very few issues with that in particular. I would say for us, we had a lot of issues, but like race wasn't something that was like anything where I would complain about. I would complain about so many other things before I would say like his race was an issue with us, but it still did provide some clarity that I didn't want to do that anymore. There were areas that I felt like I would just rather be more understood. And I think that's coming from, for me, as someone who was raised by a white woman, white Italian woman, and with white family members in a majority white private school. And I went to a white church that my mom took me to for many years. Basically, in all of my adult life, I stayed in that white church until literally I got married to a white person. So I had like my black friends, I had some black family members I was in contact with, and I grew up in a black neighborhood. Anyway, all that to say, I kind of knew my preference was black men like very young, but then I deviated. And it wasn't, race wasn't an issue with us, but I decided I'm only gonna date black men. I said that to say, when I have been out here in these dating streets, black men are way more conservative, have way more conservative values than you even know until you get started talking to them. And then you realize like they are not liberal feminists. I am a liberal feminist, a Jesus following liberal feminist. And the things that these men be saying where they're like all hyper crazy about body counts and just things that aren't feminist, you know? And sometimes when I tell men what I believe about certain things, like you just watch their brain explode because they're just not able to handle these ideas, are very quick to label it as black women being difficult or kind of slut shamey, like Amber, what's her name? What's that mixed chick name? Amber, is it Amber Rose? She used to date Kanye. Yeah, I think Amber Rose. I just find that a lot of men, the men I want to date, are not prepared or ready for the kind of woman that I am growing into, that is more and more authentically me, that is more and more liberal, more and more feminist, but also still a person of faith. And I guess what I'm just trying to say is I'm prepared. I'm prepared that that might not be the journey that I get to go on because of my specific worldviews and beliefs. So I'm just curious where you guys are at. If you have been married once or twice or 3 times, let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts about remarriage? Do you feel like it's hopeful for you? Do you feel like you can find someone who has the same worldview as you, who has the same values as you, who is someone who you feel like would be a good partner for you, someone who you feel like won't drain you? And I mean that in every way, emotionally, spiritually, financially. Like, I realize that there's areas where I need to grow. I don't think I would even be ready for a long-term partnership for another year or 2. I really want to get established in my YouTube, career and my podcasting career, just social media in general, writing books again. I do have a book, by the way. Oh, it's not up here. Oh, it is up here. If you're listening, I'm holding up a copy of my book, Grace Actually. Time for a commercial break. No, I'm just kidding. I do have a book called Memoir-ish Musings of Love, Faith, Loss, and Black Womanhood. It is available on Amazon. I will always have the link in the show notes, but I want to write more. That's something that I just haven't done for a while, and I consider myself to be a writer. And so there's just things in my life, I kind of want to get together. And sometimes that's really hard to do when you're navigating a big fat relationship. So that's just something I want to talk about today was, should I get married again? Should you get married again? Is that something that we should do knowing damn well, y'all, it will probably make us more unhappy than happy. I hope not. The prayer is like, if the Lord brings us someone, he's gonna bring us someone who will make us happy. But at the same time, being realistic, I just feel like I just want to be realistic. That might not be in the cards for me, or just not right now. And that's, it's kind of sad in some ways, but at the same time, I'm in this phase of life where I know that there's healing that needs to happen. And that became very abundantly clear for me following last year and just the challenges I've had. So that's something to keep considering and something I'd like to come back and talk about again at some point. So moving on to the 4th and final segment for today, and that is about how to survive yourself. We're talking about surviving men. and can we survive another marriage or another long-term relationship? But what about surviving yourself? And this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, because I've realized that I have participated in self-sabotage over the course of my entire life. I think that my traumatic childhood made me fully believe that I was not worthy of anything. I grew up being called stupid by an older brother. And actually, my brother was the son of my mother's first husband. So we have different fathers. My white Italian mother's first 3 children are white, and then she had me with my black father. So I was the only minority in the home, and my white brother, who was 8 years older than me, routinely called me a stupid little N-word with the ER. And it was something that very much took root in me. The correlation, the combination of that type of misogynoir. Misogynoir is the combination of misogyny and racism. So it's something that is unique to Black American women, or Black women in general, but I'm in America. So Black American women experience misogynoir. And that was the first, introduction to misogynoir for me, was in my home, being called the hard ER N-word. And that was traumatizing even then. Sometimes when you go through something traumatizing as a kid and you don't really realize this is really going to severely impact the rest of my life. Like, holy shit. But I knew even then, this is deep, because, you cannot, I firmly believe you cannot be raised in America unless you're raised in a shed and not understand the implications as a person of color, especially as a Black person, and what that is doing to eat at your soul at a very guttural level. And I felt it. And it hurt. It hurt at a young age. Like, I knew him calling me that N-word like that and putting it was stupid, and then telling me, when you talk like a Black person, it does this. Well, anyway, my whole point in telling y'all that was that I grew up with very, very deep feelings of unworthiness, particularly around my Black womanhood, and particularly around my ability to speak, think, articulate. Like, I thought I was stupid for many, many, many years. As a result of not feeling worthy, I created this lie in my mind that the good things that came to me were not for me. And so every good thing that came to me, I sabotaged it. And I would live with this deep fear. What if I lose it? What if I lose it? And so in order to feel like I was in some level of control, I would sabotage it. And that's not just common to me. It's not just common to people who've had very extremely severely childhoods like I had. But it is something that, once you recognize it, you need to address. Once I realized I was doing it, started trying to actively stop doing. And this is why I want to talk about this whole issue of self-sabotage, because I still did it subconsciously after knowing and after trying not to. And that is frustrating. If you're someone who's ever, like me, been through several rounds of therapy, I've had more than one therapist. I've had several sessions over years of therapy. Okay, like, I have dealt with my stuff. I'm not someone who's afraid to feel my emotions. My emotions overwhelm me, but I'm not afraid to feel them or experience them. Sometimes, of course. But for me to work this damn hard, realizing that I have self-sabotaged and still do it, is really frustrating. Let me know if that's something that you have ever dealt with. I just, it makes me mad. I'll just be honest with you. It makes me really, really frustrated. It makes me really mad. Something I'm always going to preach, and one way that I always am going to just shout from the rooftops is really squashing shame and learning self-love. And that is why I am continuing to focus less on narcissistic abuse in my entire platform and more on healing and self-love and healthy mental health. Because really, all of those 3 things really are what leads to change. When you're actively healing, when you're actively loving yourself, when you're actively like squashing shame and creating like a very healthy mental health environment in your brain, you are less likely to participate in self-sabotage behaviors. So instead of focusing on, am I self-sabotaging? Am I doing this? Focusing on, how am I loving myself today? I really feel like surviving myself, how do we survive ourselves, is really about how are we loving ourselves? How are we actively showing our brain, our body, our hair, our mind, our coochie, our feet, what we own? How are we showing that we love what has been given to us? And the first thing that has been given to us is our body. It's the only thing we have. You know, at the end of the day, it's all we leave this earth with. It's all we leave this earth with, y'all, is this body with nothing. Well, no, I guess we do leave it with some clothes on, but we come into this naked. I come into this world and naked I go. Okay, so the idea is that our body, our mind, our soul, like that's what we have. And the first thing to figure out is how do we love that? It's something I've been really contemplating as a very, very messy person. I think that, you know, I've gotten to not like hoarder levels, like if you've seen that show Hoarders, not like that, but I have gotten to like disgusting levels. It's been like this like my whole life. So I've started really contemplating what does it look like to survive being someone who's this messy, because it's been my whole life. It's been since childhood, and I really truly believe that I have had ADHD my whole life. And you know, we were in poverty and wasn't nobody paying attention to me. Nobody was thinking about whether or not I had ADHD, why I got 45 detentions in 7th grade, why I always was in trouble in school, why it was hard for me to sit my ass down and do anything, why I haven't been able to organize my life in so many areas. It just feels pretty obvious that I have ADHD, but whatever the case may be, even if that's the case, it has really occurred to me because, you know, I look around, like right now I'm in my bedroom and you can't see it for those of you watching on YouTube, but it's really bad. Like it's really bad. I'm looking at it right now. The last 6 months or so that I haven't been on my antidepressant, I've really very much struggled with everything getting worse. Every area of my life has gotten in some way out of control, from poverty to putting myself in risky situations to really painful dating situations to my house being a mess to almost losing my housing. I mean, y'all, it's been a very deep, hard struggle. My issues with my mental health, and this is coming from someone who has had a therapist, has really close good friends, girlfriends who I talk to regularly and consistently. I've been trying to work, trying to do social media, trying to do YouTube. I've been parenting my children. I've dealt with suicidal ideations every month. I'm just saying, like, I have really real stuff going on in my life. So I have grace for myself, okay? I have grace for myself. I have mercy for myself. I don't carry and hold on to shame. However, because it's just careened out of control, the environment has been the worst it's ever been. And I've already been messy, y'all, but the environment has just been terrible. And just in the last week, since I just started feeling better from being back on Zoloft for 3 weeks, I started thinking one way to survive myself would be just to force myself to get my entire apartment and my kids' rooms and all of that, like, under control. It's just one way to survive myself and the kind of feelings of worthlessness that I constantly battle. What am I worth? And I have to constantly tell myself in my meditation, you are worth more than this, baby girl. You are literally worth more than this mess. You are worth more than the mess than you're putting up with, you know, so and so and so and so. You are worth more than drinking wild cherry Pepsi every day and what that does to you. It's not that bad, but that's an example because I could be drinking water every day and I'm drinking wild cherry Pepsi. You know what I mean? We know that shit ain't good for you. I know it's not good for me. Anyway, but it's just an example. It could be anything in your life. Like, what are you allowing to really, really impact you, even if you have really legitimate reasons why it's so hard to tackle. And maybe other people in your life don't understand it. I have other people in my life who are they're clean freaks. Both of my best friends are clean freaks. Like OCD level clean freaks. And it's just like, you know, they just be getting mad at me, y'all. And I'm like, you know what, y'all, I don't shame y'all for being squeaky clean. Like, can y'all not shame me for being super messy? Like, come on. We all have our stuff. I just have to have 2 of my best friends in life it's just ridiculous. But anyway, But even still, it's something that I have to face. So another thing is I just want to give is it three? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Five quick and easy, 5 quick and dirty ways that we can continue to survive ourselves. Because that's why I feel like what the crux of this episode is about is what is it that we can do to survive ourselves as we continue on this path of aging and wanting to become better people, wanting to become happier people and not more miserable people as we age. So one is tone down your inner monologue. I have mentioned before, and I'm going to always say it, I don't allow myself to say bad things about myself on any sort of conscious level. If I go down that road, I just try to stop myself as soon as I can. You know, I might still think it like, God, you're such a loser, you know, and I'll stop myself like, no, I'm not doing that, you know, or like, I try not to rattle off like my dumb ass or I'm so stupid. You know, I try not to. It happens sometimes. You might even hear me say it on here, like, especially if I'm a little nervous or if I'm joking, I might say it, but I try not to. And when especially I'm feeling depression, anxiety, it can be a really big flood. Like you are such a failure. And it's like really, it's almost like not even a conscious thought. So it's a little harder to address, but I try very hard to not do that. I've really worked on that. And then I also daily replace any kind of negative thoughts with thoughts of love for myself daily when I do my Silk and Sonder planner / journal, which is my favorite, but it has a space every day to write that you love yourself. And so I write, I love you, Grace. I use my name. I write nice things about myself. I give myself a compliment. I hype myself up like I'm my own hype man. And it's just a way to continuously replace the ways that for some reason we as humans, and especially as women, I think become our own worst critic. So that's one way to survive ourselves. Another is to try really hard to minimize, again, this is in our head, but try really hard to minimize looping thoughts, brooding thoughts that are just not going anywhere. Like sometimes it's better to just be like, man, he was dead. He was, you know, and whatever it might be. But usually, if I'm brooding, it's about some situation, about some man who did me wrong. I mean, sometimes actually it's about my kids. If I'm brooding where I'm just sitting there thinking about something they did that makes me really frustrated. You know, when you have kids of varying age levels, sometimes it's not always the most appropriate thing to have a conversation with them about it. Sometimes it's just you need to deal with your own stuff in your own head and then, you know, bring a whole other issue to them that's not even having to do with the communication y'all had. You know what I'm saying? So try really hard not to brood because it takes time and attention away from problem solving. And that's something that I have realized in my adulting is that problem solving thoughts are so much more helpful than brooding thoughts. So there's another one. Third way is do not, and I mean do not, internalize other people's opinions of you, whether it's for good or evil, honey. Just don't. Try not to do it. Try to decide who you are for you, what you think about your titties for you. So that if anybody's like, oh yeah, girl, I love your titties, you're like, yeah, I love them too, actually. But that way the next day somebody comes along and like, yeah, your sagging ass titties. And you're like, well, I love them. So your opinion doesn't really matter. Now I bring up the titties thing. Because I feel like it's a good placeholder for almost everything. It doesn't really matter. It could be your job. It could be anything, you know, like even like my podcast, like I'm just starting it off. You know, I could see somebody being like, yeah, your podcast is shit. And I could, you know, I'm trying to come from a place of like, I like it. I'm trying something. At least I'm trying something. At least I'm trying to live in my creativity. You know, at least I'm trying to have a side hustle. I like it. I enjoy this. So that negative comments don't bother me because I've decided what I like about myself. I've decided who I am. I've decided that I'm smart, that I'm beautiful, that I'm kind, that I'm generous, you know, that I'm a risk taker, that I'm an entrepreneur, you know, whatever. I like my titties. So that way, if somebody says something to me, whether it's good or evil, they're not hyping me up too much and I'm not believing my own press in a way that's unhealthy or contributes to an ego that's out of control. But also so that if people try to have comments that tear me down, I'm not taking it too serious and it's not bothering me. I try, y'all. I can't say that I don't. Like on YouTube especially, I've gotten some of the most hateful comments I've ever gotten in 15 years of doing social media. Men on YouTube are just really hateful. It's frightening. Like I've blocked literally like probably over 100 men on YouTube and I don't even have that many subscribers. I have like 7,000 subscribers and I've blocked so many men because they're just hateful. And some of them have been really bothersome and really bothered me and I've had to stop stop for a minute and be like, look, they don't know you. Do not take their opinions seriously. They are random, hate-filled men on the internet. Please do not take them seriously. Live that way in your whole life. The next way that I think that we can continue to survive ourselves is by doing what I'm doing right now, talk therapy. And talking is therapy. There is some studies that show that women like to get out, I think it's like between 15 and 30,000 words a day, depending on whether or not you're more like introverted by nature or extroverted by nature. And men like to get out between 5 and 10,000 words a day. And so we like to talk, but also talking does actually lead to processing. My suggestion for how we can survive ourselves, and one thing that I feel like I can actually say I do really, really, really well, is I talk. And I talk to my friends so often. We voice clip, we use Voxer, we use WhatsApp, we use the iMessage, we use Facebook Messenger, and we just chat with each other. And I really try to invest in those relationships and be sure that I'm catching up with my girlfriends and listening to their life, letting them talk, and then me talking as well. And then I also do have a therapist as well. But talk therapy is a great way to continue to build a habit, like I was saying, that will carry you throughout your life. Y'all hear me loud and clear. It does not matter how much money you have, what melted lace front you got, what Chanel bag you got. You will not be happy without community, without growing in love with and for other people. Particularly, I think as Black women, we have to have other Black women around us that we're like in proximity to, that we're talking to, that we're reading, that we're listening to, that we're watching. Like, we need that community. And so please, y'all, invest in your relationships. Please invest in your relationships. Talk to your friends. Use WhatsApp. Use Messenger. Use the voice function. Use Voxer. It's only $3.99 a month and you don't even have to get the pro account, y'all. This is not an ad for Voxer or anything. They're not sponsoring me. I pay it because I love Voxer. And the final one that we can do to continue to survive ourselves is we can do the things that you can control, whatever that is. Can you make your bed every day? Can you clean your kitchen every day? Those are two things I have not figured out. I'll be honest with you. I have not. But there are things I can control. So some of the things I do that I can control is I wash my hair and try to take care of my hair. It's just one little thing. Another thing that I can control is putting on makeup. I know these seem like the vainest things. I don't even always do these things. Another thing I can control is sitting down every day and doing my silk and sonder, which includes tracking my mood, which includes tracking my habits, which includes writing down my gratitude, which includes telling myself I love myself every day, which includes a very brief prayer, which includes sometimes planning out my meals. It's a great thing that I can control that gives me some semblance of peace in my inner world. You can control, obviously what you eat, whether you work out or not. Y'all can think of examples. What in your life you can control. Budgeting fiercely, that makes you feel more protected, saving fiercely, whatever it might be that you feel like I've been putting this off for a while and I just need to do it, point blank and period. And for me, that's what I was telling y'all earlier. Since I've been feeling better, I've been looking around like this is something I can control, even though it has felt out of my control. That's not true. And that's something also, let me just add this on here. It's not true when you feel like there's an area of your life that is truly within your control, but you feel like you can't. I just challenge you to challenge that lie. One of my best friends said something to me several years ago that has stuck with me to this day. It has never left me. It's like one of the most profound truths that she ever told me. We were talking about something going on in my life, like some problem or something. And I gave her some excuse or something like, well, it really wasn't my fault because he did this or whatever. It was something like that, just something random. It was probably about my marriage because it was that long ago. I remember her saying something where she was like, look, Gracie, because she calls me Gracie. She was like, look, Gracie, if you're not going to be honest with me, at least be honest with yourself. And she said it in passing. And I remember being like, first of all, you know that I'm not being honest with you or myself? Wow, that was insightful. Okay. But also, she just called me on my bluff. Like, she just knew that I wasn't even being honest with myself. And then I had fed her this lie. And that has never left me. So sometimes, y'all know, sometimes, when you're in a situation and you know that you're lying to yourself. about what's going on. And you know, if somebody were to ask you about it, you're going to start off with that lie that you done told yourself. This is my advice to you. Do not lie to yourself about the issues and problems you have. Even if there is very, very deep shame about it, write it down. What is the truth of this scenario? Or even if you can't bear to write it, just in your head, just know, I will not lie to myself about this. I might lie to my therapist, I might lie to my best friend, but I am not going to let myself be in any sort of delusion about what's happening here. I think that is a great beginning, because the truth is always going to trump fear. The truth is always going to trump shame, and it's always going to lead to our freedom. You know, the truth will set you free. The truth will set you free, boo. So just kind of take that for what you will. I know it's a huge temptation to do. For example, for me, the lie would be, you can't address all of this because you have ADHD. So you just can't address it. Now, y'all know good and damn well that's a lie. It will be challenging for me to continue to address this level of mess. And the whole rest of the apartment, honestly, is ridiculous. But that doesn't mean I can't. I just have to be honest with myself and say it's a challenge. It's a challenge I'm willing to work on, because I know it's bothering me. I know it's affecting me. I know it's got to be affecting my children. I'm trying to be honest with myself and y'all, okay? So if I can do that on here for strangers to hear, then you can be honest with yourself about what you need to do, what you know you need to do to survive yourself. And that's not anything anyone can do for you but you. You know, sometimes we just have to get to this place where we're like, I am my greatest resource. I am my greatest ally. I am my greatest savior. I am going to help myself. I am going to decide to rescue myself and not wait for a Prince Charming or anyone else. That's such a hard truth to come to if you have specific certain issues like I have, and it has been a long time coming. But I am to that place now where I'm seeing I have to take back my power in every way, reclaim my power, and decide to survive others and myself. With that, I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for listening, and please leave me a review on Apple and share this with your friends if you think they would benefit. Don't forget to pick up my book, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.